Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It is Saturday. It is another rainy weekend, but whatever. But I'm here. It's very early this morning. I had to get up this morning to drop my son off somewhere, so I decided to go ahead on and create my video for this weekend. I got a lot of videos I got to watch today, a lot of live streams that I'm going to jump in today. So I wanted to share with you all as well. Today I'm going to be sharing how I travel as a minimalist. So I will be giving you some budget travel tips. And we're living in a time now where money is very tight. People are living from paycheck to paycheck. Some people are just trying to get a better job, and we are experiencing some extreme financial difficulties. But for me, I still feel that I have to design the life that I want to live. So I had to come up with ways that I could be able to do that, but still be able to afford my livelihood. So if this is something you think will be beneficial to you, I invite you to keep watching as I share with you my minimalist travel tips. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It is a beautiful Saturday morning, even though it's rainy. It's quiet. Y'all know what I'm doing, having my coffee, and I thought I'd drop in today and share another video. Let me welcome everybody to the channel that's new here. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you for watching. And I want to thank my members of my exclusive membership for being here. Let me thank all of my viewers, all of my OG subscribers, my friends, my girlfriends. Y'all know y'all my girlfriends, right? Thank you all for being here today. So I wanted to share with you all some travel tips, some budget travel tips, because if you're like me, you're trying to live your best life, even though it's crazy outside. It's crazy outside. Y'all know that, right? But I'm still trying to live my best life. As I be sharing with everybody, I'm not allowing anybody to disturb my peace. Now, when I say that, that does not mean that I won't have challenges. That does not mean that sometimes things won't hurt me or problems won't arise. But my peace, ain't nobody taking that away from me. So a part of my peace is creating the life that I want to live. So I'm going to be sharing with you all some of my travel tips, and I hope that this will help you. Now, the way that I'm sharing these tips, they're not in any particular order. I've heard some people say they book their destination first before they book their flights. Some people book their flights before they book their destination. I guess it's just going to be up to you in the way that you decide to do that. Now, this is if you're flying. A lot of people choose to travel. Now, I'm going to tell you about me. Travel by car. For me, if it's anything over 5 hours, girl, I am not driving. I don't care if we're carpooling. I think I would do it if we were trying to do like a road trip with like several people who would rotate out driving, but just me and maybe my children, me and my grandchildren, or just me by myself. If it's over 5 hours, and that was a 5-hour drive from Memphis when I lived there. If it's over 5 hours, your girl ain't doing it. She's gonna have to get on a flight because that's just too much for me. So we're gonna look at this and examine this in a way as if you were flying. So for me, it depends on where I'm going. If I'm traveling internationally, I usually will book my destination first and then try to find flights during the time that I book that. But domestically, within the States, I think it doesn't really matter to me. So one of the things I do in booking flights is I use different search engines, discount. You might want to try. One of my main ones is like Booking.com. I'm a genius level there because I've used Booking.com probably for 15 years now. So that's my main go-to. But you can use Priceline, Expedia, Travelocity, Kayak. It's a lot of different ones out there. You just have to find the one that works with you, with your budget, with whatever you use to secure your rooms, whether it's a credit card or, for me, what I like with Booking.com is because a lot of their reservations you can book and you don't really have to secure it with a credit card. It will have the option to pay it property. You only need the credit card to hold it. And what they normally do is authorize like $1 or $2 to make sure it's an actual credit card that is valid. But they won't authorize the whole stay like a lot of places that you book. Now, Travelocity, for sure, will authorize the whole amount. So you have to be careful with that. Another thing I do is I look at Google Flights, because Google Flights will give you a list of a lot of different airlines, and you can compare the prices as to, when you're traveling. And then you can select the airline that best suits your budget. And don't be afraid of using discount airlines. I know there's a lot of running jokes about different airlines like Spirit, Frontier, especially Spirit, Frontier, Allegiant. But I tell you, I've flown all three of them. And even though, it'd be some funny things sometimes, but I've never had any dangerous incidents. And it got me where I needed to be. A lot of things you do need to look at when you're using those discount airlines is that they're really tricky. Because Spirit, for one, and I think Frontier, they will give you a very, very low fare, but they charge for every piece of luggage you bring on. So you have to be careful with that, because you end up booking with them and the airline, once you have 2 baggages and maybe they're like $60 a piece, you'll end up at that price that maybe United or American or Delta would have had in the first place. So if it's about comfort, I just say go ahead on and go with Delta or United. I like both of those airlines. Well, I use them. I ain't gonna say I'm just crazy about them, but I use those too, because if I'm gonna book Spirit and be in this little small space and have to pay for every piece of luggage, I might as well have gone with Delta anyway. Another tip is that it's suggested that you book maybe 1 to 3 months in advance. Now, I know a lot of people sometimes, if they're traveling next year, they'll go ahead and book their flights the year before, but you can get a better discount if you wait closer. I know that seems crazy, but it does. 1 to 3 months. Oftentimes airlines, they will do a percentage of their airlines at a discount. So I've always found that an advantage to me to book 1 to 3 months before I travel. Now, it may be different if you're going internationally, and especially if you're doing it as a package where your hotel and everything is included, it might be better for you to go ahead and do that early. But if it's just a flight domestically, 1 to 3 months is usually good. Also, make sure you set alerts with like Google Flights. That way they'll notify you when there's price changes, whether it's up or down, so that you can compare and then go ahead and book if they notify you that they have a discount, or sometimes they'll say something like it's the lowest fare right now, and you can go ahead and secure that flight then. And then there's other search engines like Kayak that you can also set alerts, so it'll notify you via email or text message that this is a good time to book. So just a tip. And just a few more tips on booking flights. Off-peak seasons often will offer you some better discounts, so you might want to check that. Midweek bookings, sometimes you'll find a discount as well. And if you're a person who flies often and maybe you have airline miles, sometimes you can use that. I have often booked flights on miles, or sometimes I will do miles plus cash, because if you use your miles, then you'll get a discount on the flight with whatever's remaining that you have to pay in cash. So those are just a few tips that I can share with booking a flight that I use that helps me as a minimalist to make sure that I get the best discount possible. Jumping on to booking hotels. Now, as I stated before, I use a lot of discount engines, search engines like Booking.com, Expedia, Priceline. Booking.com is my go-to because, as I stated, you can book your hotel stays and not actually have to pay for it then. And also you can get discounts. And with booking.com, and I'm sure with the other ones as well, if you book a lot with them, you will move up in levels in their rewards program. So once you become a Genius level, they give you discounts, 10%, 15% off. And often it'll throw in things like breakfast or room upgrades. So oftentimes I get that. I get a better deal for my money because if I'm, perhaps in a 2 double bed, sometimes I can get in a king or king suite. So using those forms of booking my hotel stays often is, really a good advantage for me to make sure that I get the best quality room. Beachfront properties, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you have to have a low standard or mid-grade hotel. You can get, some of the nicer hotels and still get a really, really good discount. And as I shared in my travel to Miami, booking outside of tourist areas. Now, I do know sometimes when we're traveling, we want to stay in the luxury areas. We want to stay in the areas that's close to all of the activities that we're doing. But sometimes those can be really, really high. For an example, booking my trip to Miami, we paid half the price that we would have paid if we stayed at the beach. So I did a lot of things downtown and the South Beach area. All of those properties for those 5 days were well over $1,000. They were running anywhere from like $1,200 to $1,500 for those 5 days. Well, we stayed in an area, which was a very nice area, mind you. It was called Doral, and it's a very, it was more like a Latin community, but it was an upscale Latin community. And we paid about, I say with tax, a little over $500 for those 5 nights. So that tells you the difference. So if that's important to you, maybe not. But for me, I feel like, if I'm saving myself $500-$600 and I can have that for other things, my trip can be great, right? So that's just another tip about booking your rooms. Just stand outside of the tourist areas, and that can definitely benefit you a whole lot. Another thing also, if you're budgeting with money as far as spending, booking hotels that offer free shuttles. My shuttle was free from the airport there and back. You just, they have a schedule and you just jump on. Sometimes you may wait, but that's okay, because it was from the airport to my hotel, it was probably about $45. So that saved me $80 round trip. So having a free shuttle. Also, sometimes the hotels have shuttles to like shopping areas. If you are in like a coastal area, it may take you to a port if you have a cruise that you're taking. So always check into that as well. Also offering breakfast for free. We ate breakfast every day at the hotel. That's just what we did. Now you may want to experience breakfast out in the area you're traveling to, but if it's about a budget, some hotels offer great breakfast. The breakfast that we had was a hot breakfast. It was not like, a 5-star or 10 or anything like that, but it had, it offered like a cereal, like hot cereal, whether it was oatmeal or grits, cold cereal, there were eggs, there was some form of protein, meat protein, bacon or sausage, you have waffles, you have all the juices, you have coffee. So that's just a tip, to save money on having breakfast. So only meals that we really pay for were our lunches and our dinners, because we had all of our breakfast for free. Another tip, I was told that if you book on Sundays or Tuesdays, oftentimes that's when hotels will lower their prices. I'm not really sure. That was just a tip that I found online, so you might want to check it out to see if that's true. But it said booking sometimes on Sundays or Tuesdays, hotels often will drop their rates. So maybe want to check into that. That might be helpful to you as well. And just a couple more things with the hotel. It's important for me to make sure that where I am staying is a walkable community, because I like to get out and explore and walk around. And also, if you stay in a really good area, you can often find places to dine. So you can actually walk to them versus taking a ride share. or driving if you drove, trying to figure all that out and spend money. So if you're able to walk to that location, then that's great. My friend and I, we walked to one of the restaurants, which was a Cuban restaurant. It was called Cuba Cabana, and it was very good. We had a very nice dinner. It was very beautifully decorated. I mean, the ambiance was amazing, and the food was good. So that's just another tip. And the last tip I'm going to say, I know a lot of us often travel with people. So if you travel with your friends or your family, you can split the cost, whether it's in half, whether it's a third, but that's a way to save money. I'm going to jump to meals. So I would say with meals, as I stated earlier, we ate all of our breakfast at the hotel. So that saves us a big chunk of money, but also staying in an area where, we were able to walk, and that also saved us money as well. But if you stay in an area where there's a lot of different restaurants, you have a variety of places to choose from, which being in the area that we stayed in Miami, with it being a Latin community, there were a plethora of restaurants. There also was a Whole Food store. So it was called the Fresh Market. So we went there and bought a few things because the hotel we stayed in offered a refrigerator. We had that in our room as well as a microwave. So we bought things and put it in our refrigerator so that we could snack on throughout the day. If we were at the hotel and got hungry, we had fruit, or juices, drinks, bottled water. We were able to do that, and that also saved us from everywhere you go and buying, drinks and or snacks. So that's also a really good tip for you. A good tip I learned from watching videos. A lot of places now are adding the gratuity to the meals. So make sure when you get your receipt that you do look at your receipt. I did get caught one time in Atlanta because we stayed in Atlanta on Sunday, and I went out with my friend and her sisters to a restaurant, and I didn't realize they had already added the gratuity, and I also tipped. Now, you may want to do that. You just might be one of those over tippers. But for me, being on a budget, that's not my thing. And when I looked at my receipt, once I got in the car, I realized that the gratuity had already been added, and I also gave him a tip. So if it's about saving money for you, if that's not a thing, don't worry about it. But if you're on a budget, that's important because they're charging you gratuity up front. Now, and it's based on a percentage, and usually it's 18 to 20% that they will add. So I think that's a pretty good tip for a waiter. And especially if they're giving you good service. Now, I think that you can negotiate it if you feel that you didn't get good service, but you probably would have to call for a manager or something like that. So just make sure you're looking at your receipt to make sure that that gratuity has not already been added before you decide to tip. All right, and the last little tip I'm going to give you is about ride shares. We did use Uber and Lyft while we were in Miami, and they're all over the world. So that is a great way to get around. Don't be afraid to use public transportation. We actually was going to do that in Miami, but because of where we stayed, we just decided to go ahead on and use Lyft the most. I think I used Uber maybe twice, and then when I downloaded the Lyft app and realized that they were a little bit cheaper. Some people thought that Uber would be cheaper, but Uber may be cheaper in some cities, but in Miami it wasn't. It was more expensive. So we decided to go with Lyft most of the time, and being with a friend, she would pay a fare, I would pay a fare. So I spent less than $100 for that whole week on ride shares, and we were going around a lot. We traveled around a lot. So sharing the cost will significantly reduce your cost and in your budget. So that's also important. But like I said, public transportation, a lot of cities have great public transportations. You might be in an area where there's like a tram or train or a bus that will take you everywhere. Miami has that, but we just decided to go ahead and go with the Lyfts, because they were, affordable. Also, when you're using ride shares, they have an option that says wait and save, which means you wait just a little bit longer. Whether, sometimes when you look at the app, they'll say, your ride can be in there 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes. With the wait and save option, you might have to wait 15 or 20 minutes, but you may get $15 off just for waiting to save that money. So that's just another tip on the ride shares. And the final thing that I will share with you is set a budget for miscellaneous things, whether you are going to be souvenir shopping or just shopping in general or taking tours. Set a budget for what you want to spend on that prior to going. That way you can stay within that budget. Also, shop around. When we went to the Bayside Market, there were a lot of booths around the market with, different vendors that were selling the tours. And all of them are trying to outbid each other because they want your business. So the first one we went to, I had no intentions of taking. He told me what his prices was, and I told him that I was going to shop around. So you go to several, different vendors to find out what they charge, and then you go with the one that's most affordable. Because trust me, they're going to get lower, they may get higher, but that way you'll know what they're charging and you can select the one that's most affordable for you. So those are just a few of my budget travel tips. As a minimalist to save money, I would say my trip as a whole, including my flight and my hotel stay. Now, this is not miscellaneous things, just the flight, my hotel, and my ride shares was $500 or less. So that was my half, and then my girlfriend spent probably that same. I think she spent a little bit less because her husband drove her to Atlanta. I had to ride a shuttle from Chattanooga to Atlanta, and then my flight was from Atlanta to Miami. So mine was just a little bit more, but a 5-day trip for under $500, you can't beat that. So yeah, in Miami, Florida. So I just wanted to share that with you so that you will understand that it just takes a little bit of legwork to ensure that you can still have an enjoyable life on a budget. Oftentimes we watch a lot of videos with people traveling all around the world, and you're saying to yourself, oh my gosh, this has to be astronomically expensive. But with just a little bit of work, I think you can find a ways around that can, fit every budget. So thank you so much for watching today. Stay tuned. You have a podcast that will be coming up soon. And also, let me think. I'm not going to share. I was going to share with you what the topic is, but go to my community page later this weekend to check out what that podcast will be about. So thank you all for watching. Make sure you thumbs up this video if it was helpful to you. Subscribe if you are new to the channel. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for all my returning friends, my viewers, my friends, my girlfriends, my exclusive members. I love you from the bottom of my heart, and I'll see you in the next video.